our monthly Mount Air Water Project status updates. We'll go through the typical items. We'll talk about who DelCo is, what the project is, a lot of restatement of information as before, but we want to make sure that any newcomers to the group gets that information as well. So first off, welcome everyone. I am Chris Dye, I'm the Business Operations Manager. Joining me on the call this evening from DelCo is Glenn Marsliff, our CEO and General Manager, Dave Wolf, our Engineering Manager, and I do believe Natalie will be joining shortly. She's our Project Manager from DelCo. On Mount Air side, we've got Laura and Bill from the district, and I think that's it on their side. Correct me if I'm wrong, Laura.
I can't see who else is here, but I believe that's probably correct.
All right, well, let's jump on in. I think I'm going to let Laura speak first, much like we did last time. Actually, I'm going to go over DelCo stuff first. Sorry, I switched my slides around a little bit. We are member owned. We have elected board of directors, and we do have an annual meeting of members. And as a customer, everyone is a member, and those members meet once a year and elect the board of directors to help govern the company. We do provide service at cost. We are a not-for-profit organization, and our profits are reinvested into the system to maintain a going concern. And the financial obligation and benefits of our organization is proportional to use. What that means is water rates benefits from economies of scale, and your usage, or excuse me, the rate structures are based on usage. So what you use is what you're billed for. Moving on from there, I will let Laura take over from here and discuss some of the workings that are going on behind the scenes for Mount Air.
Okay, thank you. So the CT Consultants is the engineering firm that has been reaching out to all the residents. I know there are a number of people that I believe they still need to reach. They've tentatively laid out a plan for where the lines are going to go, which we posted on our district website. And I believe DelCo probably has it on their site as well. I know there are a few revisions that they're working based on conversations they've had with property owners. So we'll be reposting when there's an update. The placement of the lines, the length of the lines, the size of the lines all helps us determine the overall cost of the project. So we're still working out some of those details. So if any of the property owners here have not had direct contact with Dan or Ivan, their information is in the PowerPoint. It was also in a letter that I had mailed out I don't know, about a month ago. Bill and I met with our council to review some of the further recommendations on the assessment allocation formula, which we're still working out. And I'll go through what the next steps are for that. So we've committed to assessing 1.2 million. That's the part of the cost of the project. The balance of that we will know as we get further into completing the project, getting the bid process and things like that. 1.2 is a good conservative amount that covers quite a bit. The rest of the costs might relate to the complexity, construction, the bid, prevailing wage, and some of those elements, which we won't know until the project's further along. So any amount of the project cost in excess of that 1.2 million will be a surcharge on the water bill. So basically DelCo is going to extend that as to finance it for us. So it'll be spread out over time as well, which is super generous because I don't believe there's any interest associated with that either. So it looks like any increase in the cost of the project, each $100,000 in excess of 1.2 million would be about $4 per month in a surcharge. It's assuming we have 75 participants, which is the number of homes or improvements that we have within the district. And then they'll also be surcharging the tap fee for homes that choose to connect at the same 30-year 0% interest, very generous offer to do. So the next steps are Bill and I probably in the next week are going to reach out to the homes within the district that are technically in City of Columbus, because those are the homes we cannot assess part of the project too. So they need to opt in. They need to do what's called a voluntary assessment. And Bill and I will be talking with each property owner about what that would look like. We need to know which of those homes are going to be on so that we know how much of the rest of the 1.2 million is going to be assessed across the other homes within the district. At this time, the recommendation has come that we only assess improved lots. So essentially, if there are empty lots that do not have a home on them, they will not incur or be subject to the assessment model until or unless there is an improvement in the future. And we'll figure out how to make sure those funds come back in. So there will be no situation where a future build within Mount Air just has a tap fee and they don't have to pay their part of the infrastructure. So we're going to maintain that formula. We're going to keep an eye on the surcharge balances that would have happened had there been a home there to begin with. In those properties in the future, we'll have to figure out how to finance their portion of the assessment on their own. So they won't get the 30-year 0% interest because that's not something we can extend to them. So it's kind of a one-time only offer for properties to connect now and do that under the current EPA loan and DelCo terms. So if there's a property that might be developed in the next couple of years, that property owner has the ability now, if they wanted to sign up on a voluntary assessment, go ahead and get the financing in place through the project and not have to figure that out in the future. So the board, the Mount Air Water District Board, still has to vote formally on that, but that is the way we are heavily leaning. I think that's the direction it's going to go. If we had all 75 homes, the Columbus homes and the district homes assessed, that breaks out to about $16,000 per property or per home within the district. So once we have the Columbus homes determined within the next week or two, we will have a board meeting. We will formally vote on the assessment process formula and then determine what the amount per home will likely be and mail something out to each of the Mount Air property owners, letting them know that. And after that, there's a process that water districts go through that allow homeowners to appeal if they feel the amount that's being assessed to them is unfair. We will appoint a board of people who are not subject to the assessment themselves to kind of moderate that process. So once we have that process underway, DelCo can start getting construction bids. That also gives us a sense of the potential time frame for when the construction could start, since that's part of the bidding process. And that'll get us closer to knowing what the overall costs might be for the construction phase. So does that cover everything for the most part?
I think so. Let's take a quick pause here and field some questions. Are there any questions over what we just went through, what Laura just went through, before we move on to the opinion of cost from the engineer?
Laura, this is Mary Sue.
Hi.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. I have a question about the Columbus property that's to the west of us. That property has been divided into 2 building lots, and the developer is objecting to the existing water line through there, and with good reason, because he's going to have trouble getting 2 homes, 2 big tile fields into just the bare minimum amount of space. But I don't understand why somebody isn't negotiating an easement further to the west above the watershed, rather than try to do this elaborate and fairly destructive tunneling through the watershed, through the steep part of it, because it's flat for about 50 acres or so to the west. Has anybody looked at it?
And Chris, I don't know if you can answer that or not. I know the consultants in talking with the property owner up there had determined there were some different scenarios they could run. Dave, you might know the answer to this, and they're trying to make sure what they end up finally recommending in terms of the line placement is both cost effective and least disruptive to the environment. But you guys might know more than I do where that is now.
I'll go ahead
Dave?
and take this. I've spoken with the engineer. We've broken some of them down. We're still looking at them a little bit. But that's what we're balancing is, you know, cost and damage versus, you know, whether it lowers costs, raises costs, more damage, less damage, and we're going to try to get the best route possible. So we haven't made any final decisions on those things, but we'll be talking with, you know, all the property owners, and some of the stuff is just suggestions. Nothing's written in stone. We're just feeling out what our options are, and then, you know, doing a cost analysis, whether it's even worth doing. Because again, based off of the engineer's assessment currently, we want to keep costs lower than what they currently are, or what we think they're going to be, just to keep it on target. So, you know, nothing's in stone yet. And then when, you know, as we, you know, grind through those suggestions, we'll see what's possible and what's not. We definitely, you know, are reached out to some property owners and seeing what their thoughts are. I take their thoughts into consideration, and then, you know, we're going to evaluate them. But we haven't made nothing is final on anything yet. And so give us a little more time, and hopefully by our next update, we'll be able to say, okay, we have a better idea on most of these. And the biggest concern I have as far as routing right now is the north end getting in through Delaware County. I'm still dealing with a property owner up in Delaware County on that. If he and his group choose not to give us an easement, it's going to add to our costs a little bit. So that one is my number one priority right now, because that's the start of where the water is coming from. So that's one I'm working on the most, and we'll see if we can get through all these others too and get us a good route at a reasonable price.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Laura, I have a question. This is Jim Lambright. So on this assessment for each of the properties, will you have a criteria that you can share with us so we know how you're coming up with that number per property?
Part of the criteria is really the 1.2 million that we're going to be assessing no matter how many people were part of the project. So it's just a simple division of the number of properties, you know, into the total amount we're going to assess. The rule of thumb for water districts when they do assessments, part of it is based on the understanding that each property is going to benefit from the lines being run, whether they connect or not. So rule of thumb is, you know, anywhere from 15–20% of the value of the home, it would be expected to appreciate. So we're trying to stay under that, so we're within a safe range of what is a reasonable assessment amount. But the reality is, I mean, if our project was less expensive to do, say the lines, you know, it was a smaller project or something like that, we had more homes closer together to share it, that amount would obviously come down. But the, you know, construction costs and permit costs and the design and all of that, the costs are what they are. There's no upcharge to that at all. So we have to share it. And we made the decision that it's probably most fair to try to share it evenly amongst the properties rather than an elaborate formula that would have been based on, you know, square footage of the property, frontage, improvements, value of the property. Those we looked at all those scenarios, and we kind of landed on the most fair seemed to be a straight up even division of the project cost.
That's what I was wondering, because I didn't know if you, like you just stated, if you were going to assess the properties based upon square footage or frontage or.
Yeah, we looked at that, and at this point it's going to be per home, and it's going to be the same amount.
Okay.
I think
So it's just going to be based on the number of homes.
Perfect.
Yeah, this is Bill Ash. As Laura said, we did look at a combination of frontage and whether the property was improved or not. But Mount Air is so eclectic in the lot layout and the way things are run, that really became undoable. And without having to end up making exceptions, which is always a problem, it would work fine for a nice, evenly platted subdivision or something like that. And so the idea is that if you have an improved properties, if you have a home that could be connected to the system, there will be a value that your property will be enhanced by having access to this system. And we didn't feel that it was really something that we wanted to end up in a debate about whether that value is greater or lesser depending on the value of the home or the square footage of the lot or the frontage. And it just was much simpler and cleaner to just say, if you have access to the water and you've got a home, it's X amount, and that's the only calculation. So it really ends up about $533 a year if in fact the assessment is the $16,000 per improved property over the 30 years of no interest.
Thank you, Bill. Appreciate that.
Any other questions before we move on? Okay, Chris, I think you're back up.
Yes, ma'am. What we're going to show you now is the engineer's opinion of cost that they put together based on that preliminary design that is available to view at both our website and Mount Air's website. And this includes, since we are getting money from the EPA, we do have to bid at competitive wage. That adds a little bit to this cost. I am going to bring out some high points from this list of costs that I'm going to let Dave speak to a little more. I know this sheet may be a little hard to see all at one shot, but there's a few items that we're going to pull out and Dave's going to speak to in more detail. Dave, are you ready?
Sure. Excuse me. Sure. Like I said, this is kind of an overview of what we talked about last time, but you obviously see the different linear footages of the different size water lines and their costs. And, obviously, as we evaluate the changes that I talked about earlier, those numbers will go up or down, and obviously we want them to go down because obviously that changes our cost to down. So, as you look at especially when we get towards where we have a final layout, you look at the line sizes, hydrant placement, that kind of thing, understand that we did a lot of that based off of, trying to keep these costs down, but at the same time still providing a, high level of service, and then, fire protection where we can, so if a fire hydrant isn't necessarily right in front of your house, possibly later it can be added on the bigger lines, but that's just one of the things that we can only do now. There's only so much. If we had an unlimited budget, we could do a lot of other things, but we're going to do what we're going to do. So anyway, the last thing I want to call out is the rock excavation. I mentioned this last time. There's $120,000 in that overall cost for rock excavation. We've any exploration we've done as far as excavating, whether it's been for leaks, talking with property owners, CT Consultants is going to be doing some test holes in certain areas also. We have not come across rock. Hopefully we keep it that way, and that money stays in the project, and means you don't have to pay it back. So that's a big number, but we're hoping that doesn't happen. If we hit a lot of rock, that number will go up significantly. Rock is not conducive to utility construction, especially water lines. So, but if you have any questions about costs, definitely reach out to us. Obviously, this is just the opinion of the engineer. The true test is when we take this project to bid and have contractors actually give us the the estimated cost of what they'll construct it for. That's going to be the deciding factor. And again, we're hoping that's below this number.
Okay, thank you, Dave. I'm going to, before I pause again, I'm going to go through the next slide real quick, and then we'll take some questions on project costs. In addition to the opinion of cost for the actual system, there are some ancillary costs to add to that. The engineering costs that we currently have, the 2 DelCo loans, one that's that is currently pending, and the emergency repairs that have happened to date, bringing our ancillary cost to date of almost $212,000. Adding that to the opinion of cost, we're sitting at just over $1.7 million for the project. Only having, I shouldn't say only, because 1.2 million is a huge number, but only having the 1.2 assessment revenue, that still leaves at this point an overage or project cost exceeding the assessment amount of just over $560,000. That money still has to be paid back for the project. We have determined the best way to do that is using the same number, using the improved lots number. Hopefully it's the full 75. Obviously that number is pending the City of Columbus lot opt-ins. That brings a total surcharge cost per improved lot to just shy of $7,500. And that equates to approximately $21 a month, in addition to that $15 tap fee surcharge, because we haven't charged taps in the project costs. Those are going on your monthly DelCo water bills. So you would have at this point a $36 total surcharge between the 2 surcharges on top of your water bill. You know, again, like Dave said, these are estimates. They're good estimates, but we're not going to know the reality of it until we go to bid and we select the best contractor to build the project.
Yeah, the other thing that we had discussed with our attorney, again, is if there are future homes built within Mount Air, within the district, and they end up having to pay a portion, that portion that they pay, that they would have paid now had there been a home to begin with, that goes against that 562,000. So that amount we would expect in the future to drop. Additionally, we're working out a scenario whereby if in the future some homes outside of the district were to develop and want to tie into any of the infrastructure that the Mount Air project is putting in right now, that there would be a similar arrangement where that amount that they would need to pay would be the amount they would have paid had they been part of the project to begin with, and that would go against that 562,000 and lower that amount over time.
Exactly, and I would propose on an annual basis we evaluate any of the excess. I shouldn't say excess, but the additional participants that come on, if they come on throughout the period after the development or the distribution system is done, that we would recalculate that surcharge for the overage costs of the project going forward. So you would see that number go down as additional, or if additional homes come on. And I would suggest we do that at a minimum yearly. Maybe we do it twice a year, but it just depends on how much action we see down in that area, and with new homes coming on, as to how often we need to take a look at that. I do have 2 more slides that I want to hit real quick before I open it up for questions for this period. So bear with me just a moment and we'll get to any questions that you have. I did a real quick summary. Again, these are estimates. The assessment costs, sticking it at the 1.2 million and saying that we have the $75, or excuse me, 75 homes participating. On your assessment, you know, if you want to break it down kind of in a monthly expense, what does that mean to you monthly in your monthly budget? It's about $44 a month, or the $530 annually, to kind of help give you a better idea of what you're going to see, your budget, how it's going to change with this project. With the project surcharges, as it sits, like I just referred to, we expect it to be about a $21 a month expense. Again, hopefully the project costs go down when the bids come in. The pricing is much better. But that will be about $21 a month, or roughly $250 annually. The tap fee is what the tap fee is. That will stay what it is. That you won't see that alter. That is $5,410 per tap install. That's a $15 a month expense on your bill, or roughly $180 a year. In totaling everything up together, you're looking at about a $960 annual expense based on our current estimates to date. And when you add that, I also did a table here to kind of show what an average use water bill would look like with that tap surcharge and with the project surcharge, and what those totals would look like monthly. Typical water bill for everyone throughout our system, kind of an average, is usually between 4,000 and 5,000 gallons a month. So you would be seeing, if everything stays the same as what we're estimating, anywhere from $66 to $72, $73 a month. Obviously, it depends largely on your usage each month as to what your ultimate total will be. But this will give you a good idea to help you plan your budget and how it's going to affect you moving forward. Those are just, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, just as a quick comparison, our current system is, we're charging everybody $50 a month, no matter how much water they use. And that does not include special assessments when we've had major repairs. And there have been times where we've had to assess pretty good amounts. Not only that, we are at risk of a major repair at any given point, in which case, in order to make the repair in the past, we've had to figure out, do we collect it right away? Do we, how do we finance it? So this is pretty consistent with what we're doing now without the risk that we're dealing with right now.
So I'd like to pause here. Those are the slides that talked very focused on the money aspect of this project. I want to give you guys an opportunity to ask us the questions that maybe you were unclear on, or concerns that you may have. So I'd like to open that up.
Not a question, this is Bill. I just wanted to point out that $500,000 plus that goes into the surcharge to finish the paying for the entire cost of the project. That is being financed by DelCo at the same terms as the EPA loan, which is 30 years, no interest. And when you think of it, that's a pretty significant investment that DelCo is making in this neighborhood to take over $500,000 and get it paid back over 30 years with no interest.
And I think, from my perspective and Glenn's perspective, if he wants to join in this statement, that's something that's important to DelCo. One of our main priorities as a corporation, as a provider to the communities around us, it is important that we get the water to the folks that need it, to the communities that need it. That is very vital to our mission. And this is one of the ways that we can help you attain that. We're happy to do it, and we're happy to have you guys join us.
We appreciate that. I'm distracted because there looks like a couple fire trucks on our street.
Uh-oh.
I don't know if they're, anyway, keep talking.
It's not you, right?
No, I'm fine.
Well, still smoke.
Are you okay up there, Bill?
So far.
All right, good.
All right. If there are no questions, we'll move on to the next couple of slides, and then I'll take another pause and open up questions again. Real quick, the way we bill our water usage to our members, there is a monthly minimum charge. It's based on your meter size. As far as I know, I don't know anybody down in your community that's going to have a larger than 5/8 inch meter, which is our residential meter. Its minimum is $12. It does come with 1,500 gallons. However, it is charged regardless of your usage. If you don't use it, you still get a $12 minimum charge plus your surcharges. That doesn't go away, and it does stay with the property. Any unpaid bills stay with the property. When if you transfer and there's unpaid bills, those will have to be cleared up before the account can be transferred and service can be maintained for the next owner. We do unfortunately have instances where we do have to disconnect based on unpaid bills. What we do there is we will disconnect after 2 months are left unpaid in an amount greater than $45. Those 2 months totaling $45 unpaid. We do apply a 5% penalty each month that unpaid charges go unpaid. That's done approximately 3 days after the due date. That gives enough time for mail delivery to get where it needs to get and postings to occur. So we try not to cut to the quick there on the due date, because we do know the mail can be cantankerous at times. We do generate our bills monthly, and they're due 20 days after we mail them. So say we print them each Wednesday for each section of our membership, and they from the day after, from that Thursday, you have 20 days to pay the bill. And it is based on actual monthly readings. And I'm not sure if I've brought this up in prior meetings, but one of the things that we're doing for your community for a couple of reasons is we are going to install cellular transmitted readings. Those meters are going to be equipped with a transmitter that sends out your readings via cellular. That means there's no drive-by, there's nobody coming to read your meter in the front yard. That also means that you will have a lot of information at your fingertips. There's a portal for you guys that you will be able to log into, see your hourly data usage. You can set up leak alerts. If that's something that you wish to do, you basically go into the application, you say, I want to know if my meter flows more than, I don't know, 100 gallons an hour, send me an email alert so I will know it and I can investigate what's going on. I think that would be really handy for folks, especially if they vacation in the wintertime or take up residence in the South during the colder months, especially if they do not turn off their water for the winter. So we are doing that for your community down there. We've done it in one other community and it has been very successful. People have been really, really thankful for the technology and the access to the information. This slide is a little out of order. I don't know what happened there, but that's okay. This is an overview. If you've had an opportunity to see it before, either through one of these meetings or at either DelCo's website or Mount Air's website, this is basically a preliminary drawing of what your system will look like as far as water mains. Dave, I don't know, do you want to add anything to this? We've seen this a couple of times, but we may have some new folks on the call this evening.
I don't really have anything to say about it, but if anybody has any questions, I can, try to answer them. Like I said, we're in the process of reviewing some of the things, but I don't think you're going to see a ton of major changes to it. But we have some changes probably coming, but we'll deal with those as they come. But anybody has any questions, please speak up.
Hi, this is Ruth and Leonard Weinsteiger. I was just wondering if you have online payments to DelCo then concerning the water bills, then if it's possible to pay online, if you have that capability.
Yes, we sure do. Each member, regardless of the type of meter they have, There is a customer web portal specifically for DelCo members to go on, pay their water bill, view their history, either their bill history, their bill amount history, or their usage history. Now, if there's an added feature for those of you that will have the cellular meters, you can click a link and see that detail history, but most certainly you can pay online. You can pay over the phone at our automated phone line. You can sign up for automatic withdrawal. You don't even have to think about it. We'll take the amount out of your checking or savings account on the due date. Or you can mail your payment in. You can drive up if you so choose and drop your payment off. We have just about every outlet imaginable to allow you to pay your bill.
Great, thank you.
Do paperless billing or not?
We do. We have that option as well, that you can manage that when the account gets set up, or you can go onto that customer web portal and opt to receive an e-bill. That would come out, say we print those, we calculate those bills and generate them on Wednesday. It would hit your email that very afternoon. And then you can view that bill online and also pay it online from an email, a link in the email.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, moving forward just a bit here. I wanted to talk about the new service connections for DelCo. One of the things that most folks do not understand about DelCo is just because we go down your street doesn't mean you have to connect. That's a huge misnomer. However, because we are a nonprofit private utility, membership is voluntary. However, I will point out that in the Mount Air community, in the district specifically, if you are an improved lot or improved property in the district, you will have an assessment on your property. Those, I believe, are going to be added on to your property tax bill. I don't know how that looks or what it looks like, but it will be on your property regardless if you connect to DelCo water or not. We still need an easement if you don't connect, so we can install water mains where we need to install water mains. Then property owners who do want to connect to DelCo, you will pay a tap fee. It'll be based on the meter size, which again, to my knowledge, I can't imagine anybody being in your community needing a meter greater than 5/8 inch. That's that 5410 that we referenced earlier. That's where we will tap the main and set a meter about 5 feet from the main line on your property. We do still need the easement again, but we will also need that other documentation, the water users agreements, and all of those EPA required forms for service. I want to take a quick pause here just to make sure there are no questions on that.
Hey, Chris, I just wanted to jump in and mention this. You know, we have about 25 people that have done all their paperwork. That leaves about 50 still out there floating outstanding. Project managers are going to be, they've done a little bit of this. They're going to be doing some more where they're, you know, doing some door hangers on people, trying to reach out, you know, make contact with people. So
Dave?
Don't be surprised if somebody shows up.
I have another question, and I apologize if I keep asking questions. So,
Oh, you're fine. That's what we're here for.
So I had Mark Cantrell Plumbing came out today to assess my property, looked at my water line coming into my home, looked at where the connect is out on the property, and my water line is 150 PSI, and he recommended 200. And if that information's in the packet that you provided me, I'll just go back through that rather than taking up time on this call. But my question was, is he had mentioned that he had worked with DelCo Water in the past, and he said, since my water line, my connect, the meter's going to go right where my water connect is at. DelCo, he goes, he knew in the past that DelCo just did the hookup. And I said, well, no, I said, they won't do that. I said, we're required to pay for that and have somebody do that connection. And he said, well, you may want to just double check with them. So that's what I wanted to bring up on a call. Is that case true, or is that not true? Or, you know, I just want to make sure I have a clear understanding, because it sounds like from what I understood from our prior meetings is we're responsible for the connection to the meter once the meter is installed on our property, connected to the main line.
I think Dave and I, either one of us could answer that, but I'm going to defer to Dave, especially considering the conversation around the PSI statement that the plumber made. Dave, can you handle, please?
Well, let me ask you this, sir. The service line that he looked at that's 150 PSI, do you have like a poly service line, or is it an older galvanized or copper, or, you know, did he get that detailed on what you have?
You didn't get that detail, but where it comes into a house, I mean, it looks like, to me, it looks like black iron is what it looks like.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, like I said, you know, everybody has different service lines, and if you would like, we could arrange a time that I could come and look at it, or, you know, one of my project managers. But, you know, if you want we recommend new service lines, you know, as a rule of thumb, but depending on what you have, and I have gone and looked at some residents, their service lines aren't that old, or it's a material that has, or is not in bad shape. Is that the way I want to describe it? And in that case, as long as we know where like it connects to the distribution system out front, you can reuse your old service line if you really wanted to, but you take the risk of dealing with service line leaks later. If you choose to run a new one out, as long as you get the service line ran before the contractor is setting meters, typically they will, the way we're doing this with the contractor doing it, they typically would have no problems grabbing your end and connecting it right into the meter pit, and you don't have to do anything after that point. But if they set the meter ahead of time and you've not ran out of service line or not reusing your existing service line, and that's something that we encourage people to coordinate with Ivan with CT Consultants, because he's putting notes on the plans for the contractors. You know, you may have to come back out when you put in your service line and make that connection to that meter that's been set. And typically we will be stubbing out a what's called 1-inch IPS, which is iron pipe size, SDR7 polyethylene, you know, it's black coil pipe, and you would have to mate to that at that point. And actually, if you go on our website, that's what we recommend if you are replacing your service line, that you use it. It actually used to be rated at 200 PSI, and, you know, within the last, I want to say 5 years, the manufacturer changed it to 250 PSI rating. Nobody is going to have that kind of pressure at your meter. We provide pressure between 90 and 40, you know, so you'll come somewhere in that range. And believe it or not, most people in this project are going to be, you know, I think, and Ivan can possibly speak up. I don't know if he's on the call, but I think the high end, when you're at the far west end of the Mount Air, you're going to be in the 60s or 70s, and people that are actually on the east side of State Route 315 are going to be having pressure reducers put in their meter pits, because they're going to be over 100 pounds without it. So, you know, we'll reduce it down into the, you know, 55 to 70 range in that case. So, you know, when you talk about 150 PSI rating, you're still doing pretty good, as long as it's, you know, new enough and in good enough shape that it can actually handle that kind of pressure.
Okay. Well, I would like to have, when you do get the time, I would like to have you or somebody come out and take a look at it. And to your point, I do have a pressure reducer on my line, because when I moved into this home, all the infrastructure had to be redone. So they redid all that. There is a reducer on it, but yeah, if somebody could come out, I would appreciate it and take a look at it, because, you know, if I don't have to go through the headache of having a whole new line put in,
Right.
I would just as soon do that. So
yeah, if you would,
you know,
we'll put my email address out there at the end, and just reach out to me by email and tell me your name and address and a good number to call you at, and we'll get with you and take a look. It's not a problem at all.
All right. Thank you very much. Appreciate
Thank you.
it.
Well, and I wanted to back up to this slide here. The picture on the left-hand side shows a finished meter installation. That plate-sized item in the middle of that rectangle is your meter lid. It'll be set be set out in your yard similar in this fashion, and that's what will be connected to. I just wanted to make sure that those on the call understood that that's basically what it's going to look like when we're finished. Okay, so DelCo will obviously have the water distribution system installed by the winning contractor of the bid. We'll install a service and a meter on the property. So we'll take a service line from the main, install a meter and a tap in the ground that looks like that underneath that lid that I showed you. And we will stub out, or we will connect if the line is available for us to connect to, as Dave referred to. And we will maintain the service to the point of metering. Once we hit the meter, and on the other side, on the home side of the meter, that is the homeowner's responsibility. So it's your service line, yours to take care of. We'll take everything prior to that. What the homeowner needs to do, I would like to reiterate again, is to install your service line. If you're installing a new service line, or have your existing service marked or stubbed up, if that works out timing wise. You should install an expansion tank on your hot water tank. I'll let Dave speak to that in a little bit here. And you should disconnect your well or existing service, whatever that may be, from your residence. That doesn't mean that you cannot have a well. That just means you have to disconnect it, or should disconnect it to avoid any annual inspections from your residence. And then we would also ask that you locate your septic tanks and any leach fields that you have on your property, and make, especially if they're in the way or may be in the way and have concerns. We certainly don't want to get into any of those, and we'd like to avoid them if at all possible. So it is important that you speak with Ivan from CT to make sure he's aware of where those are at. Dave, I'm going to let you take over here on this slide to talk a little bit more about the thermal expansion tank pricing, and then the pricing that we're kind of guessing at on service lines.
Yeah, if you choose to have a new service line put in, on average, I would say that a plumber to put in your new service line with a brand new shutoff valve in your basement with the thermal expansion tank, and then to connect it into your plumbing, should run somewhere between $1,000 and $2,000. And I highly recommend that you talk to 3 to 5 plumbers and get different prices, because they always run on a wide range. And I've had many a customer tell me what different plumbers quoted them, and it's not like they're always around each other. So that's why I said it's good to get a variety of pricing. Different plumbers have different skills and different equipment, and they charge different pricing to do the type of work. If you choose to keep your existing service line, and we know where it comes, connects out at the street, so we know where to set the meter and how to get it in the area so it can be connected to your existing service line, you can do so, but you got to be able to show us where that is, because not everything in Mount Air is known where exactly it is buried. But and then say you have to modify the interior plumbing to get that shutoff valve and expansion tank, to have a plumber do it, or do it. You're welcome to do it yourself. DelCo does not inspect that, but we do highly recommend it. And part of the paperwork that you've probably seen says that you're indicating that you're telling us you're going to put it in. But if you hire a plumber, you're looking at around $500 or less on average. Same thing, get some quotes, because every plumber is a little different. So the expansion tank cost itself, if you walked into Home Depot or Lowe's, is less than $50. It's 2.1 gallon tank. And the other parts to do it, if you are a handy person, is not that much money. The shutoff valve, I think, is most expensive at like $8, I think, is what it costs for a ball valve now. So, if you do it yourself, it's not expensive at all. If you hire a plumber, it can be a little more, but every plumber will be a little different. But that just gives you kind of a high end or a range of where you should be.
Hi, this is Lindy McGahee. I have a question regarding going back to the map. And my understanding, you're talking about running the line from the street. But we were under the impression when Ivan was here that the line's going to run from the street behind us. Is that a possibility as well, or has that been changed?
Dave, do you want to answer that? I do know that some homes, the lines will be, could be on the street behind you and coming in
Okay.
from the rear. But Dave, do you want to expand? Have you had further discussion with Ivan?
You're on Edgecliff, right, Miss McGahee?
Correct. Right.
Yeah, so you see down there, there's a line on both sides of your house. Does that look about correct?
Right. Uh-huh.
Okay. Yeah, and I don't know what, I can touch base with Ivan to see, what he, decided or what you and him discussed. I mean, I think you could actually pick either, because I think your property, and I can't tell on this map because it's small and my eyes are old, but, I think if you wanted it, if we run that line in the backyard, if the final plan has that line to the south there, down on, I'm trying to think with the plum tree, and you wanted to go out the back of your house, that's a possibility too. Absolutely. As long as you
And
it's on your property and it's tied to a street, we don't have a preference. It's whatever works best for you.
okay, but the line will run in front of our house as well. And we had asked if we could have a tap or two put in our land across on the other side of Edgecliff.
Yeah.
And it looked like those are on the map.
Those are on the map. And like I
Okay.
said, understand though, on those lots, and Laura can speak to this, they would ask that if we set those meters there, in essence, you would, become a tap holding customer for those lots. I'm assuming Laura would say, hey, we're asking that you voluntarily go into that. Because I believe your lots, if you can correct me if I'm wrong, those are actually in the city of Columbus. Does that sound correct?
They are.
And well, some are in the township.
Okay. And like I said, you would have to work that out with them to make sure that the assessments are being paid for that. But I don't have a problem setting those. It's obviously we want the more people that are in it, the cheaper it's going to be for every lot. So more is better.
Okay, I'll talk to Laura about that. Thank you.
No problem.
Is there any questions before I hit the last slide? Okay, one of the big talking points for tonight, and we really need to send home, is we really need folks to fill out their packets of documents that that we sent out a while ago. We sent them out early. A lot of people felt like they got them a little early, but we did that on purpose because it takes a lot of time to get these back. People are busy. We understand that. But we do need to get all of these packets in before we can actually go to construction. So it is imperative that we get that information back. We need your easements. We need the water users agreements, cross connection questionnaires, and your certification for the thermal expansion tanks. So it is important for those of you that are on the call. If you see your neighbors, hit your neighbors up, say, hey, have you turned in your paperwork? Because that will hold us up. We can get everything else done, but if we don't have all our paperwork from the project participants, we cannot move forward until we have that in hand. So this is a really important item that we need to get checked off of the list. Do people have any questions about any of these documents, any concerns, or if you need help getting them filled out? I will open it up now to talk about those. I believe Laura and I know Laura. I know you have your notary. Bill, does Bill?
No, I think Kim Duker, who's over on off of Lakeshore, she has it, and she's offered to notarize But people just need to let me know a day or two in advance or on a Friday before weekend, because I keep it at work and I'll bring it home and I'll have it available. So if that simplifies things, I just got my paperwork out. I had to find my own notary because I couldn't notarize my own. And then I have a list of the people that haven't turned it back in. So I may reach out to the folks that I have email addresses to and just see, you know, if there's anything they need. But yeah, I think hopefully we've answered all the questions that people had when they initially got the paperwork, and some of the concerns that caused people to want to pause to return the paperwork, because I don't know that we're going to have more information by the time it's needed. You know, we are pretty sure we know the assessment amount. We have a pretty good sense of what the construction costs are going to be, but that won't ultimately be known until the project's done. So hopefully, you know, the easement documentation is what it is. We have a pretty good idea where the lines are going to go, but there's still things being worked out. And I think everybody can tell, hopefully very well, that DelCo is trying to be, you know, as diplomatic as possible with the line placement. And I think you guys have been more than willing to work with individual homeowners around, you know, trees and buildings and concerns. You guys have been wonderful to work with on that. So hopefully everybody trusts that they'll continue to, you know, do a good job to take care of our properties. And there's nothing in the documentation or paperwork that gives away your rights for that. And it's all really in service of a project our neighborhood desperately needs in order to keep our values and continue to have homes we can live in.
And also just to add, you know, myself, my two project managers, we also have notaries. We're willing to, you know, do appointments, come to your house. You can come to us. We're just down the road, whatever works for you to get those filled out and get into us.
And you can certainly call the office, set an appointment with Brenda Davis. She's our TAP specialist. She's in a few days a week. She will set an appointment for you to come into the office and help you fill out your paperwork and notarize everything. I'm writing or typing furiously here to put down the email addresses for our contacts here, and I'll share that here in just a moment. And I have been recording the session this evening, so we will place that out, I believe, on Mount Air's website once we have it ready. So you can reference back to that, but do not hesitate. I know my contact information is on our website. You can certainly reach out to me at any point. I can either answer the question for you or get you to the person that can. Real quick though, here are the email addresses. Dave is listed first. They're really simple. It's our first initial last name at delcowater.org. So Dave Wolf, Chris Dye, Natalie Linkus is a project manager on the project, and then Brenda Davis, who I just mentioned, is the TAP specialist. So B Davis at delcowater.org. Any one of those folks, if you can get a hold of one of us, if they don't know the answer, they will certainly get you the answer or get you to the person who can get you the answer. So I'll leave this up here for a few moments if you want to jot those down. And again, this is being recorded, so we will share that out to the district to share on their website. Are there any further questions as we wrap up this evening? Doesn't sound like it. Laura, Bill, Dave, or Glenn, do you have any closing remarks before we sign off?
Just that I appreciate you guys doing these monthly calls. We've got the next one coming up in a month. We'll send out updates on that, and you'll probably receive your assessment estimates before that call, hopefully, if we can get all the Columbus homes to respond. But thank you, DelCo. You guys, like I said, you've been wonderful to work with.
Well, you're very welcome. We are truly, truly excited to be able to offer you guys this solution bringing water service. Again, that is something that is so vital to our mission. And it's something that the majority of DelCo employees feel very passionate about. So we're thankful that we can be here to do that.
We appreciate you too. Thank you.
Thanks everybody for attending tonight, and I appreciate my staff, Chris and Dave, for the time you're spending on the project too. So we'll see you in a month. Reach out to us if you have any questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful end of your week and weekend.
We will.
You,
Thank
everybody.
you. Good night.